Hi, this is Paula coming to you remotely from my house because I have a broken leg. This is the Common Book Show, and we're here today with some regulars. We have Richard and James and Paul, and I'm going to let the two new, and of course, Sal. But the two new people can introduce themselves because I have problem with names. So please introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Lolly. I am from Watertown, New York, which is 32 miles from Canada, which is not extraordinary for people from Buffalo because they are also very close to the Canadian border.
That's true.
But most people do not realize that there is any other part of the state of New York other than the city.
Virginia?
Yes.
Introduce yourself.
Oh, we can't hear her now.
Are you muted?
Oops, sorry. I muted myself because I have a dog that keeps coming in and out of my room and I don't want to disturb people. My name's Virginia McIntyre and I'm very pleasantly surprised to be here. And so we will just see what is in store for us this evening, shall we?
Okay, all right, that's great. So today I just read something, and I believe the guy's name is John Renner. I'm not 100% sure. I'm reading a book of essays by him, and he had something that I had no idea. This first essay was about this rap band called Insane Clown Posse.
Is it John
gracious.
Renner?
John Renner, yeah. Do you know
Yes,
John Renner?
I know him very well. He's a
Do you
local
know-
filmmaker.
Pardon me?
He's a
Sal?
local filmmaker and author.
From
Yes.
Buffalo?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm reading a book that he wrote. I'm reading it online because I've been downloading books online because I'm not really mobile, even though I have a lot of books in the house.
Yes.
It's hard for me to be on my feet. So I read this article about this band, and it's these two kind of two guys from Detroit who are extremely obnoxious, and
yes.
they had a band originally called Inner City Posse, and apparently they made some enemies, and so they wanted to do something different, and they changed their name to because they wanted to keep the initials ICP, so they changed it to Insane Clown Posse and started painting their faces.
Yep.
Well, apparently they had been doing these horrific, misogynistic, violent lyrics for 20 years.
Oh, yes.
And now they've come out and they've said that they only did that to get a big following so that they could turn them all onto God.
I'm not sure if you'd call it a big following or a cult following.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree.
Well,
I'll go with that.
Well, the thing is, I thought that was, the guy, this guy is local, Sal?
yeah.
And you know him.
Yes, very well.
Oh, I would like to talk to him, actually. I think he's a really good writer.
Okay.
I'm going to have to look into this because I find it very interesting to try to imagine that somebody would act like they do because I'm familiar with them. There's a group of people who follow them in Watertown that I'm associated with slightly, and the idea that they behave the way they have this long to bring people to God is very strange to me. A lot of my family members are missionaries.
The interview, right? The interview actually did reveal that they really basically don't know what they're talking about, but that was they're not very intelligent people. But I just found it. I just thought it was really funny that they had this, and because the interviewer kept saying, "You for 20 years, you waited 20 years before you introduced God and Jesus into the picture," and I think that they were just trying to shock people. But I just thought it was a funny story. So
Paula.
Yes.
They gave way to the Juggalo movement.
Yes, that's
one of the creations.
Absolutely correct.
In the alt community that we haven't
they did call,
touched upon at my show.
Yeah, they did say that those were their followers. That's what they were.
And they're
called.
an interesting bunch, let me tell you.
Well, I mean, to me, they don't interest me. This writer's approach to it interested me, though. That's why I thought it was well written, and I'm kind of because I've been going to the doctor and out of the loop for a while, I've only been reading things on my phone, which is not my favorite thing to do. But I know that Richard always comes prepared with a list, so I'm going to defer to Richard to start off the conversation.
How about I bring something up that will include James Walker, too?
I would like that.
Yeah,
sure.
but we'd have to wake him up first.
Trust me on the way.
Okay.
Incidentally, why were you sort of walking so gingerly? Do you have a foot problem or an ankle problem, James?
More like a hip problem.
Oh, that's very painful.
Ouch.
Yes.
So I sent something to Mr. Walker this week, and he said it would take more than he could type to respond. Do you mind if I bring it up, James?
It's your show.
Okay. Okay, so here's what I sent to him. Let's see here.
Well, we got a bunch of women on the show now, James. So
Okay, so in the New York Times, they did a little article stating that in the new Aquaman movie, Amber Heard, formerly Amber Heard with Johnny Depp,
Yep.
Oh, yes. Okay.
yes,
had a part. However, the part got reduced. Now, listen to what the New York Times wrote. Amber Heard portrayed Mera in the first Aquaman movie,
That is correct.
which received positive reviews and became the DC Extended Universe's biggest commercial success.
Because it was the only one that actually followed the comic book.
Can I finish
Sorry.
without being interrupted? Okay. However, her role was threatened after the highly publicized Depp versus Heard case. The case in which Heard's ex-husband, Johnny Depp, claimed Heard defamed him because she identified him as an abuse survivor.
Herself as an abusive father.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Fans of Johnny Depp launched a vicious smear campaign against Amber Heard and her supporters, which included harassments, verbal attacks, and death threats. Misinformation spread like wildfire across the web, despite it was never proven that Heard's abuse allegations were false. Despite being seen in the film for at least 20 minutes, the second film, Heard doesn't have that many lines. She only gets about 11 lines. So what is she doing in the film? Well, she's just there. So my question to James, is this a sign of misogyny?
It is a sign of how women have zero accountability in this nation because the New York Times is lying through their goddamn teeth. Amber Heard has been proven to be the abuser in her marriage, both with Johnny Depp and her former lesbian partner. So she is a two-time fucking abuser. Proven. And the New York Times is saying that she has not done a thing.
well,
But they're-
James, first of all, I have to say that I believe that there is never one side to any story. I'm not saying I don't like Amber Heard. I don't have any respect
So why are
for
you
her.
defending her? The point that
I'm
I'm
not.
making.
I know I'm not defending her, but
But you're interrupting me saying what the Times is lying about. But go ahead.
Well,
Do your
no,
thing.
I thought you were finished. You had a pause there, so I thought you were finished. I didn't mean to interrupt you. But what is the Times lying about?
Number one, they're saying that there are only baseless allegations that Amber Heard has ever done anything wrong, which she hasn't because she's blameless. That is untrue. She has been arrested for abusing her lesbian wife, and she has been proven to be the abuser in the Depp Heard marriage. She also maliciously set herself up to be able to accuse Johnny Depp of things he didn't do, couldn't have done, and this was all premeditated. She took out an insurance policy to make sure that if Johnny objected to her lies, she wouldn't have to pay for her legal defense. And it was the insurance company that settled with Johnny Depp saying, look, if this case gets appealed, which she's threatening to do, which we can't stop her from doing, but we'd be on the hook for paying for. Johnny, help us out here. Can we just make a settlement? And that is the only reason why this case isn't going forward. It took Johnny Depp 6 years and $6 million to fight an allegation that cost him $50 million worth of work simply on allegations. And because of that, fans signed petitions telling Warner Brothers and DC if they don't ditch that bitch from this movie, they will not go see the movie. So here's the interesting thing. Johnny Depp lost his part in Pirates of the Caribbean and Fantastic Beast because Amber Heard claimed that he did wrong to her. Amber Heard, on the other hand, got a raise. She got to keep her L'Oreal contract, and they stubbornly refused to fire her from Aquaman. But they did numerous rewrites. They tested the movie, got bad reviews in the tests, and finally reduced her role to what it is when they released the film. But they stubbornly did not cut her from the film, which is really unfair.
I think they didn't cut her from the film because it wouldn't make sense for Mira not to be there, and they didn't couldn't recast because of the contract.
Right. although this is a fascinating subject,
I do appreciate what
like,
he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
I would
I mean,
like
you can't
to
just
say
make
that,
a character disappear with no explanation.
Yeah.
Okay. Although this is a fascinating subject, and I agree with a lot of what you said, James, about the Amber Heard situation, but I vehemently disagree with what you're saying about women not having accountability in society. You know, we don't agree on that. You always say that. And I feel that I know why you're saying it, and I know the situations under which it might be true. But
Is this one of them?
in that particular situation, I find that she has really been given a lot of she's been
treatment.
given too much.
Leeway.
So I feel I think in this situation, but I don't like that overall sentence that you give all women that we are not accountable, because that's
The question
that's
is not,
just
are
an over-
you accountable? The question is, are you held accountable? Those are different
I am.
things.
Yeah, women are held accountable. Yes, they are. So the thing is, but you're talking mostly from this position where you don't believe that women who accuse men of abuse are actually abused. When in
I
fact,
did not say that there are not women who are abused. I say, this is my position. So if you want to hate me and call me a misogynist, please get this correct. My point is
I would
that
probably pronounce it right, but go ahead.
it's my knees, they are so soggy. My position is that any woman can make a false accusation with zero evidence and get taken more seriously than any man with evidence of female wrongdoing.
I agree.
I agree.
I'm so related to one of those women. It's not even funny. I'm not kidding.
I totally agree.
I have a person in my life who every time that her bad choices lead to a unfortunate occurrence in her relationship, she just starts to whine and cry that he's abusing her. and at the same time, I'm on the phone with him screaming at me. What do I do? She's chasing me around the house with a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
And
Well,
the
thing
first
is
time, the second time, the third time, I was like, what are you talking about? She's barely 4'11". But now when it's been 6 or 7 different men, it's like, okay,
But
these men aren't talking to each other. She's got to be the problem.
And these scenarios that I'm hearing from James and I'm hearing from, from you at this point, I'm seeing like the lowest common denominator. When I'm talking about women, I'm talking about a level of humanity that's beyond that. So I don't, yes. Are there scummy women out there? Yes, there's lots of scummy women out there. Are there scummy men? Yes, there are. There's scummy men. But I'm not talking about the daytime television, who's the father, level of humanity.
The
I'm
Jerry
talking
Springers.
about women.
Right,
I'm
yeah.
talking about, that's not it's not where my brain lives. So
I'm sure that there were white people back in the 1800s who would never accuse a black person of doing something wrong that they didn't do. And I'm sure that there are white people back in the good old days
I'm
who
not
would
talking
never
about
lynch a black person just for being
James,
in town after sundown.
But there are reasonable and ethical people. You don't
You're
think
not
there are?
you're not seeing the very important point here, which is any woman who wanted to could, and that is the problem. It isn't
why don't
how
we
many
stay away
women
from those-
will,
those
it's how
women?
many women could.
But why don't you stay away from those women?
They're everywhere.
Paula, you
No,
are
you're missing the point.
completely missing
They're
the point.
completely everywhere.
Any woman who wants to, whenever she decides to, can. So it's not about how do you choose the right woman, because any woman can decide to be the wrong woman at any time she chooses.
And sometimes you can't always get away from people.
You know what? Okay. All right. So let's start this from here. My vision for this show was never to talk about the dregs of humanity. My vision for this show was to talk about intellectual stuff. It's like to be a salon where you talk about your creative pursuits, where you talk about what you're reading, what you're studying, what you're interested in. That was always the idea behind the show. And I find right now that we're in a situation where we're talking about, I can't even think of the name of the guy who does the daytime show where it's talking about who's the father of who.
Jerry Springer.
Jerry Springer.
Maury
This is not
Povich.
Jerry Springer, and it's distressing for me to take it to that level.
May I point out I didn't
don't
bring up
believe
this
that women
subject?
are. I don't believe that the majority of women would, if they could, act out against men.
Nobody said the majority of women would. What I have said is
They can.
every woman can. If we lived in the patriarchy that you all claim that we
every
do, then it would be
man-
men who could do
mostly-
this, and that's not the place
Well,
where
but
we
now
live.
wait a minute. Now wait a minute. Now
every
wait a
man
minute.
Can knock a woman over the head and pull her into an alley.
Hold on. Hold on.
If
Wait a
that
minute.
was
Wait.
This is
wait,
a
I
difference
would-
between
wait.
talking about power and talking about social permission.
Now hold on. Now, back in the good old days, as you were referring to, a husband who did not want to remain in his marriage with his wife could simply say there's something wrong with her and have her committed with no other source of information than his word. And that woman could be locked away for the rest of her life and never
still
get
do
out
that.
of a mental institution, which back in, even
As long as
today,
the husband
those
pays.
places are deplorable. But, women could be hauled off and locked away 150, 200 years ago when men were
Less
tired
than
of
that.
and had no more use for those women. So
Less
the
than
shoe
that.
did
Yeah, and
used to be on the other foot. The problem is the balance of power has shifted to the point everybody said, oh my gosh, these women are victims, and have allowed that mentality to thrive to the point where now all you have to do is say, he called me ugly and fat. And they're like, what's wrong with you? Why did you do this? Are you
Well, no,
trying to
I
destroy
don't-
this woman's psyche? And women are just have been allowed for the last 50 or 60 years to play the role so well that it's just what they not all women, but when women get backed into a corner and are unhappy and they think their marriage is falling apart, or that they're going to lose their children, or that they are going to have something catastrophic happen, they are so quick to scream and holler and cry and carry on that I know I'm about to lose my job. My manager sexually harassed me. My husband's about to leave me. He's an abuser. My children are about to be taken away from me. He's molesting my daughter.
I need to stop this for a second.
It
All right,
happens
so
all the time.
I know it. All right. I'm sorry. I'm Victoria. Is that your name?
No, I'm
Lolly.
Lolly, and wait a minute.
No, I know
can
you're
see
Lolly.
that this is
want
getting
I want
frustrating for
another
you.
voice.
We
I
should
would like
probably
another
change the
voice right now.
subject.
I would like another voice right now. Just give me a second. There's another woman on this
Virginia.
panel, and I would like another
Her
voice.
name is Virginia.
Virginia.
Meet
Virginia.
Virginia.
I'm sorry. I'm getting flustered, as you can see. Okay. Do you have anything to say about this? Do you have any opinions on this?
I have many opinions on this.
Okay.
I
Let's-
have lobbied in the state and on the federal level for women's rights, women's reproductive freedom. I've also been in the streets back in the years when Buffalo was taken under siege to keep our clinics open. I'm a feminist. I have lots
Okay.
to say, but I really think that since this is a radio show or whatever, that's all I'm going to say is who I am. That's it.
Right. And but because generally speaking, I'm usually the only woman on the panel because that's just the way it works out. So I usually have the only voice, but I am also a feminist. I am also an advocate of women's and human rights. I am also someone who has lived through periods of my own challenges with men and having been treated unfairly. Let's put it that way. So I am a woman, and I can come from it from that point of view. I am not a young woman. I'm a woman who's lived many years, and I've lived through periods of time when women were not. I mean, and even now, if you look at statistics, women are not paid the same as men for different jobs, even now. And but I don't like this idea that that there are women out there who are going to use this idea that they've got some kind of a right to abuse backwards in a way that this is what this is. It's reverse misogyny, and I'm hopeful that I know enough decent women who would never do anything like that, no matter what, no matter who left them, no matter if their children were being taken away from them, no matter what was happening in their lives, would never resort to these kind of tactics. And I resent that, there are people who feel that this is a normal thing. Normalizing it blows my mind.
The
Well,
word you were looking for is misandry.
I don't think the society has normalized it. We as a society have gotten to a point where we are so willing to allow people to do whatever they feel like doing that practically everything is okay now that was not okay 50 years ago.
I don't know how to respond to that because I'm not sure.
The only thing I'd like to say is that I don't care what the law is. You're always going to find someone or somebody or some group that is going to try to manipulate the law because they're backed into a corner. But those people are very few and far between. We still live in a law-abiding society. Now, we can look to other media that might want to tell us differently, or we can all find somebody in our life that lied to the police. But the bottom line is this: statistics and data does not lie. Statistics show that all too often it is the woman, because they are not as physically strong as a man, that are the victims of domestic violence. 1 in 4 women are being raped in our society as we speak. So I'm sorry that people have had unfortunate circumstances in their life that they tend to think that what I'm saying is not true. But what I'm saying is true.
1 in 4, that's 25% of the population on the women. You're telling.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yes.
You can Google it.
Every single
Make sure
woman.
you check the methodology.
Okay,
of
just
that
one
meeting.
second. Every single woman.
I'm giving you my opinion.
Paul.
My opinion
Paul,
is that I'm really sorry that people have these views. I'm really sorry.
Paul, every woman that I have ever spoken to, and I've asked this question of a lot of women, every woman that I've ever spoken to has had to endure some kind of sexual abuse or some. I would say that 1 in 4 is low on the rape thing. I would say that at least 1 in 2 of the women that I have spoken to have experienced rape, either from someone they know. And I'm not saying being knocked down on the street.
That's not even
Well,
logical.
she said she's a feminist. You know what the feminist
Okay,
definition
I
of
guess
rape
I
is?
follow that logic based on the premise that she's a feminist, but that's not even logical. I have a very large family, and I will guarantee you in writing that other than myself and my sister, every other woman in my family is in a monogamous relationship with one man. That's the only man they've ever been with, and none of them have ever experienced what you're talking about. And I've got, I have to think about how many women are in my family for a minute.
I want to see the statistics on this, where 50% of women are raped. That's ridiculous.
If I sit down with a woman and we talk, there is something in their past, some adult when they were a child, some teenage boy who took it too far and she had never given her consent. There was something that happened that's damaged her to the point where it's very difficult to maintain to even build relationships. So when I came out about Harvey Weinstein, when I came out about that, and he didn't rape me, but there was a sexual abuse thing. When I came out about that, you know how many women contacted me, women I didn't even know, to tell me that they had something similar happen. They had somebody in their workplace, somebody cornered them, somebody grabbed them, and these are people I didn't even know. They can't all be crackpots. I couldn't give them any relief. All I could do was say, I understand.
You know what's the problem with discussing the concept of rape? It's one of those crimes where the evidence of the crime is exactly the same as a consensual act. So I prefer to stick to stuff that you can actually delineate. Amber Heard my best friend, please don't tell me that it's a consensual act. I didn't say it was. I said the problem with rape is the evidence of a rape is frequently exactly the same as evidence of a consensual act, which makes it problematic to say which is which. At which point, I tried to pivot to say
it's not problematic, because if you say you have been abused, you've been abused.
That's not true.
No.
Saying you've been abused does not make it a fact. Speaking words does not make it true. I can say that I'm a Chinese person, and that does not make me Chinese. I can identify however I want to identify, and it doesn't make it a fact.
So what you're saying, in your world, everyone's lying.
I didn't say everybody's lying. I said the problem with rape is the evidence of rape is exactly the same as the evidence of a consensual act if there is no evidence of physical force.
I mean, it depends on how depending on how egregiously violent the act is, yes, there can be cuts, tears, scrapes, bruises, and etc. But wild, kinky, crazy stuff that people do can also cause that type of thing to happen. And then when you get pissed off because your wild, crazy boyfriend is now being wild and crazy with some other woman, you're like, oh, well, look at what happened to me.
No, okay, all right. I have to stop this conversation because I think this conversation is damaging, and I don't think it's helpful. And I feel that the people on the panel have such a distorted worldview that you're not talking. James, if a woman says she's been raped, the chances are she's been raped. I don't care what you're saying. Yes, do some women say that because they're ashamed of what they did or they want to get somebody in trouble? Yes, some women do. But in a worldview
when they do?
Where
the man goes to jail.
I am a sensible, intelligent, decent woman. And I talk to other sensible, intelligent, decent women. And these people that I trust are telling me things that I believe because there's no reason for them to lie.
The problem with that statement is that is a very objective opinion. And your definition of sensible and other people's may vary greatly.
If what Paula says
because I have a Christian worldview, and my view of things is entirely different than most probably anyone else in this group right now, and I will keep that to myself.
If what Paula says is true, the Matt Ariza story would have a very different. It would be a very different storyline. This woman claimed that he raped her. He is immediately suspended from the Buffalo Bills. He is then cut from the Buffalo Bills 2-3 weeks later. Mm-hmm. He still hasn't been rehired. Mm-hmm. And it comes out that the prosecution knew that not only did Matt Ariza not rape this lying wench, but he wasn't even there. Mm-hmm. And she filmed herself gangbanging a bunch of guys, and only because she had regret.
But we're still in the gutter here, and I don't want to stay in the gutter. I want to change.
We're not in the gutter. We're in reality. The point is, this woman lied. There's proof that she lied, and still, who is paying for it? The guy, the innocent guy who has lost his entire means of support and his everything, and has to walk around with people thinking that he's a rapist because people believe.
I don't think that's fair. I'm not saying that that's fair, James.
Then just admit it happens, Paula. And more so, the point is that the average person on the street is not saying Matt Ariza should get his frickin' job back and that woman should be sitting in a jail cell. She is getting paid $300,000 from an insurance company just because. Here's your $300,000. Go spend it. Have a good time.
James, if you want me to admit, which I do, that these things happen, I'm perfectly willing to.
Thank you.
But in the same line of thinking, I cannot accept the fact that you're saying that an act of rape, it has the same you can't tell a difference between an act of rape and an act of consensual sex.
If there's no violence involved, what is the difference?
And there's rarely that kind of violence that leaves scars.
This is what I just said. We are actually violently agreeing with each other.
I would have to say that I was in a marriage that went in that direction after our child, whose sex will remain anonymous, was born. And things weren't good for me physically. That wasn't acceptable. So I do understand women who are in this situation, and I do understand that up until very recently, women in my particular situation were not listened to because you couldn't. How can you rape your wife? You're married to her. It's okay to have sex with her even if she doesn't want to have sex with you. So I've been there. But I'm going to tell you right now, getting involved with him in the first place was actually what the problem was. If I had made wiser choices rather than getting involved with somebody like him in the first place and possibly listen to my mother for a change, which now I do every minute of every day, and she's the only person I'll put shoes on for. But I'm telling you right now, if my mother looks at me in the eye and says, you need to be wearing shoes right now, I find my shoes and I put them on. But I'm telling you right now, stupid decisions were what led to my problem, not because he was a jerk. It was because I was an idiot and didn't listen to people who were telling me, stop, 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 stop. You don't want to be doing what you're doing right now. I thought I was smarter than they were. I realized recently that I wasn't.
There's a lot of women who stay in relationships because it's either what they were brought up with and they think it's normal, or it's because of bad self-esteem and they don't think they can do any better, or they have this fantasy idea that things are going to change. You know, there's a lot of reasons for staying in those kind of relationships.
I'll agree with what they said. Being married to somebody does not give you the right to force yourself on them sexually.
Of course it doesn't. It used to. It used to.
Yes, it did.
Unfortunately, yes, it did.
Yes, until within the last 15 to 20 years.
Right.
It did.
So Richard, do you have something less controversial that we can discuss?
Yeah, I'll bring I will bring our photographer on the panel into this. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Every day there are photographers for the Buffalo News who go out into the city and they vie who's going to get the photo of the day. Okay.
Are there kitty pictures?
And I like this one photographer. I think his name is Brissett, because he has a way of looking at the ordinary in a way that most people don't. Mm-hmm. So he said to himself, I'm going to go take a picture of City Hall. And he drives up to City Hall and he realizes, I don't even have to get out of the car. I don't have to get out of the car, he says, because I can see City Hall in the raindrops on my windshield.
That's pretty. I like that.
So you can see the shadow in the background of City Hall.
Yeah, I do.
Very abstract.
But in each raindrop, you could see it upside down.
I love it.
That's amazing. That's beautiful.
And to me,
that was in the news.
Yeah, that was the photo of the day for yesterday.
Awesome. That's awesome.
And so, to me, what that shows is that there's a difference between someone who takes pictures and a photographer. A photographer is someone who's learned almost like to see the world in a totally different way.
But that's right. And as far as, for me, when you're showing the world how you see something, because each one of us could look at the same tree and get a different shot of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's partly Paul is talented because he can show us how he sees, and he can also takes these pictures of people, and he can wait for that moment, or he can capture that moment when they're looking either like they're thinking about something, or they're transcending the situation. You know, there's so many photographs that I've seen of Paul's that have that magic. So, you know, it's nice to have a visual person in the group.
Paul, remember that photo you took of that little boy standing next to his mother? And you were supposed to photograph two of them, but you saw the little boy getting ready for the photo and you took a picture of him?
I'm not sure what we're talking about.
Okay. It's in the gallery.
Is it?
Oh, okay.
I'd have to. I gotta look to see if I have.
Well, just so you
Just
know,
start flipping boing, boing,
he
boing,
spent
boing.
Paul spent the last 6 months here because he had
Right.
to go to hospital. Took over 5,000 photographs.
No. 50,000.
Whoa!
How many iPhones did
50,000.
you burn through?
So if
No iPhones.
if he hasn't,
He was
if
using
he
a
can't
Google
remember
Pixel
one
7.
specific photo, we have to forgive him.
Yeah, it's 50,000 photos.
Paul, what were
Yeah.
some of the venues you
as
took
an
photographs of? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just want to say, but as an artist, I know that not every one of those 50,000 are you willing to publish.
No, absolutely not. No,
Right.
yeah.
Right. You just keep
It's-
shooting until you get ones that you feel that are worthy of your signature.
Well, it's not so much that I just keep shooting. I specifically look for situations, and
Absolutely.
I just don't randomly go and click off, 1,000 pictures at one thing or something and hope I get something. I typically set up,
Absolutely.
you
Absolutely.
know, for, yeah.
Yeah,
So
but that's
I
how.
understand that. I understand that. I didn't want to imply that I didn't understand that.
Well, yeah.
so back
there's a-
so back in the
I don't
day
remember-
before digital,
Yeah.
I would, when I shot film, I purposely would set up for each and every individual and make sure it was right, because I had to pay to have it developed and so on. So now with digital photography, it's much easier to click off a bunch of pictures and hope you get one.
Oh yeah.
But I still follow
Ain't
that
that the
practice
truth?
of what
I
I'm
mean, you
using
still-
film.
You still have to, lighting has to
When
be
I
right.
took a photography class, I was at Locust Street Art School.
Mhm.
I went to Locust Street Art School when it was Malioga back in the day, 30 years ago. I'm 66 now.
From Ken Morgan.
I took a black and white photography course from Ken Morgan, but I am a visual artist. But when I was younger, I went to Malioga. So I understand. But back to my point was that when I took the digital class from somebody else, he told me that he was trying to teach me so I wouldn't be just shooting and hoping that I could manipulate it later. That he wanted me to use the digital camera like I would, let's say, for lack of a better term, like the black and white.
Right.
But of course, I need more training to even say I'm even close to that, because I'm not.
Yeah.
So when I shoot, I don't use any automatic settings. I shoot everything manual. The only auto setting I use is focus,
Right.
because I need to have that, because I shoot a lot of wildlife, so I need to have the tracking capability. But other than that, all my settings are manual. I don't utilize any of the programmable stuff in the camera.
Right. And that, and I am nowhere near there, even
I'm
though
not either.
my instructor tried to teach me. I'm nowhere close to being
Yeah.
where you are.
It's too much like math for me.
Yeah, when I take pictures, usually I get my thumb in the edge somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, I've been a photographer for a couple decades now, and Richard will tell you that my work has varied. It's improved in some places, and other places I'm still struggling, especially with lighting. That seems to be my biggest weakness. Wouldn't you say, Richard?
That is for a lot of people. Lighting was one of my favorite things to do when I had my studio, and now I don't have the studio, so I kind of look for natural light and try to catch shadows the right way, and trying to get the perfect lighting. But most of the time, harsh lighting is the worst, and the best lighting is in the morning or in the late afternoon.
Yeah, I prefer natural light in my space in general. It's more energizing than
Right.
artificial light.
Oh, just so everybody knows, hold that thought, Sal. Hold that thought. Just so everybody knows, in January, Virginia will have her own show on Think Twice Radio.
Very nice. What's it going to be about?
What are you doing, Virginia?
Well, the name of the show is called Illuminating Forward with an Explanation Point.
Oh,
Okay.
And I chose that title because I wanted it to be about all of us improving every day, becoming a better version of ourselves than we were yesterday or last week or last month or last year, wherever people find themselves. Now, I've already got a person that's willing to come in for my inaugural show, and I'm working on the second show. I've already asked someone, and he's thinking it over.
So will you
And
do
he's a poet,
themes?
and he's a poet. The second one is a poet, and he's written a couple books. And I have a column in the Buffalo Latino Village called Investing in Ourselves. And I've asked Alberto Capis to be on the show in March. And he's the
Okay.
editor of that magazine.
That
So
sounds
so I'm hoping that it'll be something that people from all walks of life can sink their teeth in, and they'll be willing to call in and ask questions and give me ideas for future shows. But I already have the person for February, and she's willing to come from Rochester, and it'll be about different topics. But as Richard said, that I'm into health and wellness.
yes. Yeah, I'm curious about what your specialties are, or what your focus is.
Well, I'm 66 years old. I've been around a long time, so I'm good at more than one thing. So I don't like to answer that question. What is my focus?
Well, I
Because
mean,
my focus
nutrition,
changes
or is
I know about nutrition. I know about Reiki. I know about meditation. I meditate daily. I know about holistic practices. I'm a holistic practitioner, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't see your doctor.
right. No, I get that.
So
That's cool.
Well,
years
that's
years ago, before wellness became a major at Buffalo State College, I worked under the tutelage of Dr. Myra Gordon from the counseling. She was a counseling psychologist, and she opened up a program of wellness before they had the discipline. And I was the director of it at Buffalo State College back in the late 80s. So I have a background in it, and I'm glad to see that mainstream society is starting to take after the academic and looking more towards more holistic practices, because it's nothing new. These are all very ancient modalities that worked for centuries.
right.
And if you know your history in this country about big pharma and about the American Medical Association and the Roosevelts, that's all I'm going to say at this point, you would understand why we are a pill popping society.
Yeah,
It
it's
has
just
to do with money.
it's really it's very distressing. I've started now recently in I would say it's the last month, really concentrating on my fiber intake, and I have to say that by creating good gut health, I've changed everything. Everything.
Right.
Biotics and Metamucil.
Yeah, my
Nice
even my ability to think has improved. So I'm a lifelong learner. So I feel that the things I've learned about
Bravo.
nutrition in the last I was a vegetarian for a year back in the 70s, and I would have probably stuck with it had I not had a child who wouldn't eat the things that they needed to eat that had protein in them. But So anyway, I've been looking into health and caring about health and exercising
Good
and
for
doing
you.
all
Good
that
Yeah,
for
stuff.
that's
you.
great.
And you know, we all should be so blessed to be lifelong learners,
Well,
correct?
Yeah, I
I'm a
believe that
lifelong learner.
it keeps you from aging mentally as quickly,
well,
for
I,
sure.
I recently came to the realization it's kind of like, okay, your body is a system, and it's designed to have put in it what is naturally occurring, not these things that are being produced in laboratories that are being sold to us as better for us because they're lower in calories, lower in other substances. If you cut back a little but eat the naturally occurring things, it's the most amazing thing. I've lost 50 pounds in a year doing this, and I'm still losing weight doing absolutely nothing else. I'm eating almost exactly like I did before, but actually eating naturally occurring foods rather than like Splenda and artificial things that my body just looks at me and says, what have you just tried to make me process, and I don't know what to do with this.
I want to point out something like what Virginia said, and that's why are we a pill popping society? Because I remember seeing on TV this one guy from an HMO say, in the old days, people stayed home and took care of themselves. Now they just pop pills and get right back into things. And I'm like, well, partially because their employers expect them to and don't give them the chance to be sick or to, it's like if you're sick too bad, if you don't have a doctor's excuse, you're fired. Or,
Exactly.
oh, you can stay home and be sick. We just won't pay you. That kind of stuff.
That's a big problem.
It's hard to be healthy in a sick society.
Yes.
When you're only being presented with processed. I mean, but the reason processed foods became so popular is because of the strenuous work schedule that people have to. You can't.
No, it was greed. It was all
But the
greed.
strenuous work schedule is because
Right.
the employers are saying if you're not in your cubicle for your 40 allotted hours that we're demanding you be there, if you're only there for 39 and a half hours because you're not feeling well and need to go home early, you're not going to have a job to come back to next week. Is essentially what's happening. Your kid cannot get the chick. I mean, you do realize that, because I'm a mother, okay? I've been here. Children are only allowed to be in daycare during non-school hours once they are of compulsory age. So if you have a child who is, say, 9 years old, and your child contracts the chicken pox, which is, as we all know, a 2-week to 1 month ordeal, and you are a single parent and don't have an auntie, grandmother, cousin, sister, someone to step in for you, who's going to watch that child when they have to be out of school for 2 weeks and you have to be at work and your husband is non-existent and you don't have any child care because they cannot go to a daycare and be cared for? There's no one. I have literally lost jobs over these types of things.
When I worked at
Paula,
yes.
Paula, my show was brought up, so I just want to say one more thing.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
My inaugural show, which is the first Thursday in February, it is going to be about spirituality. The woman coming is going to be on a spiritual topic from Rochester. That's all I want to say. That's it.
Oh, okay, all right. That's an interesting topic. I'm sure you'll do well. I think you'll do well. I'm glad you're doing it. I think that everyone should do this. It's an amazing experience.
I'm gonna need to get the information from Richard so that I'm able to view this. So
it'll be on the show.
Actually,
where are we on time? Where are we on time?
I'm still
5.5.
I'm still waiting for a
5.5 minutes?
photography
Okay.
show. That's what I want.
Yeah.
Do it.
Virginia,
Go
I'd
for
like
it.
you to be on my show so we can talk about the
I can do a remote.
holistic cures. And do you do sound baths too?
Yes, I do sound baths.
Okay, I'd like
I
to
have,
talk to someone about that.
I have some crystal bowls that I can bring, and we can do a sound bath right on your show.
That'd be great.
Well,
Cool.
in that case, then I probably should let you know that and when the new year begins very
I got my
soon,
crystal ball right here. See?
I'm going to be working on. I'm going to start working on like a video blog sort of thing. It's going to start out like that, and who knows what it'll generate into. But it's going to be called "Who Knew?" And the basic
Richard.
concept is that there's actually sometimes a right way to go about things, and if you do those things the right way, you're going to get the result you're looking for instead of just trying to rush through things and make it happen the way you expect it to. Applied to just about every aspect of life.
I'm going to do a show called the New York Newfie.
What did you say, Paul?
It's going to be a show called the New York Newfie about photography.
Oh,
Newfie.
I like it. I like it, Paul.
Oh, wait a minute. Now, what was that?
I
Who
think
told
the
me that
photography
phrase
show
that I
is-
was supposed to
is-
use?
Is very needed. Really.
What's that?
If we
I
can look
didn't
at
hear.
images and we can talk about the images, what thoughts and feelings they provoke. I mean, Paul, I think you should come on my show.
I can do that. Just invite
Okay,
me.
cool. Okay, I'm going to invite you.
All
I'm
right.
going to have to
Oh,
talk to Richard about showing your images.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I can put them in the background as it, but
Yeah. Well, beautiful. Then not poor, but wonderful Richard wouldn't have to work. Beautiful. Yes. All right.
Virginia,
And we can talk about thoughts and feelings.
when Paul was at the Buffalo Zoo, he noticed that a snake was looking at him. He got out his camera and he waited for the exact moment when the snake was staring him down. It's a very powerful
love it.
image.
Yeah.
oh, hold on. I'll show you right here.
Yeah, that's a great image.
Trying to find it now.
Yeah. I
Who is
can't
it?
find one picture on my phone, and I have like 1,000. Good luck finding one out of 500,000.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, that isn't very intense.
love
He
the
found
blue.
it.
That is
The
very
love, the blue
intense.
that's right near
As
his
the
eye.
snake tries to eat your head.
He's looking like he's thinking about where he should take the first bite.
Right.
Such a cute detail, too. And
Yeah, it's beautiful.
the,
The
light
colors
and
and
dark,
everything
it's
are
really
beautiful.
gorgeous. I love the blue.
Yeah, I do too.
I
That's a
like the
beautiful
yellow
color.
eyes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Richard, do you have something, Richard, you can take us out on?
Nothing brief. I did want to say, if we had time on the show, we could even bring this up next week. But Cher was in the news today.
Oh, really? I didn't see that.
She went to a court and she said, my son receives an automatic monthly allowance from a trust that I set up. Problem, he's using the money to buy drugs. I would like the court to change the terms of the trust so that that money goes to someone else that he has to ask when he needs money.
There you go.
Can someone translate for me? I thought Cher only had one child.
That's the
correct.
child.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm clear.
No,
That's
Cher
enough
has-
said. I'm clear
Cher
on it.
has two children. Cher has two children, correct. I'm sorry. She has one with Altman, too.
Oh.
She's got a son. Yeah.
So-
Oh, I
she's got
didn't. Oh, so that must be the son then.
No,
That-
I
it's
don't
just-
think that's what he means. I think he's talking about Chaz Bono.
Chaz
Is this
slash
what I'm
Chastity.
name
No, this is a male.
No,
This is a
Chaz
man.
is a male now.
But
Chaz.
Chastity
They're both
identifies as a male now.
Well, then I don't
No,
know.
So I'm
Chaz doesn't
confused.
identify.
This is.
Chaz
I'm
has
trying
had
to
the
be
surgery.
as polite as I can.
No, Chaz
And-
has had the surgery, so Chaz is technically a male now.
Cher and Altman came to
a
Buffalo
good thing
for
we're out
their
of time.
substance abuse education. I don't know if everybody's aware of that.
Um,
When she was married to him, they came to Buffalo to learn about substance abuse. The
Yeah.
woman is very keenly versed in it.
No, but I'm just trying to. The son that she's talking about, is this Chaz or this other child? Is what
They
I'm
don't
confused
say.
about now.
They don't say.
I guess that that's just
I
gonna.
guess we don't know.
Because she wouldn't be so rude as to say the wrong thing, and
So my question was, if you have a child who's slowly killing himself, who's more at fault? You or the society that he lives in?
Well,
Now you sound like
what
Wachowiak.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're
like
you're
it's
you're leaving us with a 30-second window to discuss nurture
Wait, wait,
versus
wait, wait,
nature?
wait.
Are you crazy? This could go on for the rest of the night.
You know,
I'm bringing Carl Jung next week.
Oh my goodness.
I'll watch
Tune
that show.
in next week, same bat time,
Carl
same
Jung, I'm
bat
bringing
channel.
him in my back pocket.
My
Oh,
goodness.
goodbye.
Really,
Goodbye, everyone.
really,
Thank
really,
you so
people.
much for
Thank you, Paula. Thank you,
participating.
everyone, for letting me sit in. Thank you.
It was wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate
God bless.
Happy New
Virginia,
Year.
friend me on Facebook.
you. All right. Bye, everybody. I'm going.
Bye,
Happy New
Paula.
Year.
Bye bye.
I
Thank
still
you.
Hey,